Oh boy, are we back to talking about a classic today, Jordan Peterson. For those of you who somehow don't know who this guy is, the Kermit the Frog voiced, lobster loving hero of the Maple Leafs, Jordan Peterson, he is a conservative demagogue who gained a lot of prominence back in 2015 to 2016 when he went viral during this mobbing of students that happened around him that was filmed, in which he was being demanded to denounce the presence of far right people at that were supporting him or something like that, or his denial to use some pronouns, some basic conservative, like, I'm going to stand my ground against these crazy lefty SJWs kind of thing. And of course, these college students naturally got very upset at their teacher and recorded what he said, and they kind of surrounded him and behaved in a very immature and not exactly optically beneficial way. Like, this video went mega viral and arguably kind of kickstarted what we now consider to be Jordan Peterson's career. Now, very quickly, once he started gaining prominence, he started to claim things like, oh, this new Bill C-16 coming in Canada. Well, actually, this expansion to Bill C-16 in Canada that'll include transgender people and gender identity as a protected class will lead to a 1984 Orwellian crackdown on free speech and human rights. And you won't be able to say hello, sir, to a guy on the street with a beard without worrying about being sent to prison. That voice is less Kermit and more Gnome Lamau. I'm doing the best I can. What the fuck do you want from me, Pesky? I've got no vocal range. Suck my dick. Anyway. Yeah, so he basically claimed that this expansion to Bill C-16 in Canada was going to be an Orwellian crackdown on freedom of speech in Canada. People would be getting arrested for simply accidentally misgendering random trans people on the street. And it was this whole, like, over-exaggerated culture war nonsense. And it happened all the way back in 2016 to 2017. And, of course, Bill C-16 passed, or should I say the expansion of Bill C-16 passed, including gender identity as a protected class, which also means cis men and women are both protected under this as well. So it's very bizarre. Regardless, though, he claimed that this would be the end of the world, and to this day, I don't believe a single person has been charged or convicted or fined on the account of Canada Bill C-16. Not to mention, the wording of the bill specifically lays out criteria that are extremely strict and borderline already a crime. So the argument this is some like overstep of the government is pretty insane. Basically, what they would consider to be discrimination or harassment based on gender identity in the workplace would be like your boss or your coworker like repeatedly making rude comments to you after you've repeatedly told them to stop, like obvious harassment and stuff. When it came to like landlords and business owners providing a service to somebody, they couldn't like discriminate based on gender or being trans now. That is literally all that Bill C-16 did. No one's been fined or gone to jail for it yet, as far as I know. Certainly no one's gone to jail for accidentally misgendering anyone in Canada. And yet that whole thing, which was really, if you think about it enough, what rocketed his career into the stratosphere, was all just a bunch of bullshit. And for a lot of these people, it's all a bunch of bullshit. They grow their entire careers on fear mongering about shit that never actually happens and never actually has any evidence that it's going to happen, occur into the world. They just claim it is, and they, their audience are a bunch of conspiracy nuts. They'll believe all that shit. And they fall for that crap. They fall for it every single time. They somehow fucking fall for it. I don't know how, but they do. Regardless, though, with that said, over the last couple years, Jordan Peterson's kind of had a little bit of a he's kind of fallen off, if you ask me. He's kind of fallen off. He used to be very popular. Now he's kind of like depressed, drug addicted on like, I think he almost died on some keto diet. And apparently he recently did this interview looking just absolutely awful. He is not looking great. Where apparently he goes, quote unquote, mask off. I've had all three of these tweets sent to me. There are clips from a, I guess, interview or documentary or video that Jordan Peterson posted. And apparently it is Jordan Peterson going more mask off than he ever has before in regards to trans people, their rights, and whether or not they should even have access to the medical care they need in order to live happy, healthy, fulfilled lives. So, the first tweet is from Bad Stats. It's only a 43-second long clip. Jordan Peterson Googled top surgery and realized it wasn't illegal, so he doubles down and compares adults consenting to get gender-affirming surgery to Nazi medical experiments. Not technically illegal, just a crime against humanity. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Let's go ahead and hear it from the horse's mouth.
And finally, with regard to the final phrase, criminal physician, I must say that I've had some post-coital, so to speak, regrets about that phrase. It is clearly the case that the surgical operation performed by the butchers who butchered Elliot/Ellen was legal. So, was it criminal or not? Were the operations undertaken by the fascist physicians who carried out the Nazi medical experiments legal? Yes, under the laws of the time. But were they criminal? I'll leave that question up to you to answer.
Wow, we really have gone all the way full circle, haven't we? We've gone all the way full circle. Apparently, a trans man. How old is Elliot Page? In his 30s, no doubt. Like, that a 30-something-year-old man can go out and get testosterone replacement therapy, which, by the way, is a medical procedure that cis men get all the time. Like, you go to the gym, and if it's like a real gym, you're going to see a couple gym bros there that are going to be on TRT. Not because they're trans, they're cis guys. They're on TRT for performance enhancement boosts. There's a good chance of it. You can just go to a clinic, basically, and get, like, I'm pretty sure that, like, now this isn't the case for trans dudes, but my understanding is, like, if you're just some guy who wants to get, like, testosterone injections to increase your testosterone levels for the sake of, like, just getting a better pump and working out and getting bigger in the gym, then you can just walk into a clinic and pay $200 and walk out with a prescription, I think. I'm pretty sure it's, like, not that hard. Like, way easier than it could ever possibly be for a trans dude to get access to a prescription of TRT for transition. I highly doubt that the TRT that, like, is the TRT that, like, some muscle-bound, like, cis dude who's trying to get bigger would take the same type of TRT that a trans dude would take? Because there are different types of masculinizing and feminizing hormones. So it's very possible that, like, they're not the same. And I'm talking specifically about TRT, not, like, other anabolic steroids. It's different usually. That's what I'd expect, right? Because you'd think that if they were giving trans dudes anabolic steroids, then you'd think trans dudes would have some of the, you know, some of the side effects of that, right? Which I have never heard of. I think it's depending on how much you need. Yeah, I don't think it's the same thing, though, because there's different side effects and stuff. Though maybe, I mean, different dosage can make a huge difference. Anyway, what he's doing here is pretty damn disgusting. For those of you guys who know, Elliot Page is a famous actor. He is a trans man, and he was very well known by his dead name. Prior to that, his dead name is very similar to his current name. I'm not going to say it, but I'm sure if you didn't know who Elliot Page was before, then now you're able to put together, you know, who I'm talking about. You're like, okay, Elliot Page, Pog. Anyway, Elliot Page, perfectly grown ass fucking man, goes out, gets the TRT, the testosterone replacement therapy, gets the top surgery, and he's Canadian. Okay, that's pretty cringe, but regardless, gets the pectorals, you know, goes from having the booby woobies to the pectoral whorls, and you know, getting that pump in, getting that drip going. He's doing well. He's looking good. We're happy for him. We're proud of him. And may he experience all the best things in his transition in his life. I like him. I've liked him since I saw him in Beyond Two Souls. That was actually my first time seeing him in anything, was Beyond Two Souls. Regardless, though. So, this man consensually going out to get medical procedures to help with his transition is somehow no different than the Nazi government taking children imprisoning them against their will, and then brutally experimenting on them in different ways to find out things like, what if we combine two children's optical nerves and see if they can, like, if one brain can see what the other's eyes are seeing. Just horrible fucking shit like that. I know one of the biggest ones is like sewing children together and then leaving them to die. Like just random shit like that. Really horrible stuff. And now we've got Jordan Peterson unironically comparing top surgery, something that is done not only with the discretion of the person who's getting it, but also with the discretion of doctors and medical experts. He's calling this somehow equatable to Nazi scientific experiments. Now, this alone should be good enough evidence for you to prove that being a well-educated guy does not mean that you are smart on topics that you are clearly not well-educated in. And that is clearly the case when it comes to Jordan Peterson. To be fair, it'd be pretty fucking neat to know if eye transplants work. Yeah. Listen, if I had to decide, I would have, if I had to press a button and make a lot of the weird experiments that happened back then actually turn up some humanity helping things, I guess I would, but no, they were just doing it out of morbid curiosity. Like in all seriousness, the scientists that were doing a lot of those experiments in some of those camps were legitimately doing it out of sadistic curiosity in some cases. Like they were legitimately like, what would happen if we like cut off two people's arms and then sewed one arm onto the other guy and one arm onto the other guy? What would happen? That's basically what their mindset was in all of this, and it's really fucked up shit. Nowhere near as close to what we're talking about here. Anyway, then Know Nothing ended up posting a thread of clips from Jordan Peterson, and I think they're going to be pretty good to respond to as well. They're from the same thing.
Hello, everyone. A few days ago, I penned an irritated tweet in response to one of the latest.
This is him making like a statement about a tweet that he made. What a fucking drama queen.
Happenings on the increasingly heated culture war front. In response to the decision of...
Hold on, chat. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. That is about as hard as I can possibly roll my eyes at the words Internet Culture Warfront. Jesus fucking Christ. You are 70.
Of an actor named Ellen Elliott Page.
Thanks for correcting yourself.
I am employing this awkward and impossible naming style because it is now apparently mandatory, and am probably doing it wrong nonetheless, as you're doing it wrong is the whole point of what has been made mandatory. But also, I'm trying to make a point. I've essentially been banned from Twitter as a consequence. I say banned, although technically I have been suspended. But the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet in
chat. You know what this reminds me of? Who remembers this scene from Breaking Bad? This is what it reminds me of. Jordan Peterson's Walt here. Anyone else getting the vibe? Like with how serious it is? This is the internet, sir.
Question, and I would rather die than do that. And hopefully it will not come to that, although who the hell knows in these increasingly strange days.
Oh. Let's continue. What else does he have for us?
Utter carelessness of the Twitter organization with regard to the propriety of its own censorial actions.
Hell yeah, Ethan.
I should at least know exactly what I did wrong if I am required to acknowledge that my tweet violated the Twitter rules.
Okay. One, what a cringy way to speak. Two, I agree with that in essence. I do. I do think that websites like YouTube, Twitch, fucking Twitter and whatnot, especially if you make your living off these platforms, do need to eventually, like, maybe even if it means the law forcing them to, need to provide a reason for why your platform was taken away. I actually do think that would be really, really good. Nobody can abuse that. There is literally no downside to YouTube or whatever telling you why you were banned. Because right now, a lot of the time, there are cases where you don't even know what got you. You just don't even know what got you. Now, in the case of Jordan Peterson, though, this kind of is kind of bullshit because Jordan Peterson knows what TOS he broke. He regularly misgenders trans people and uses wrong pronouns and calls them like delusional freaks and says that they're pushing a agenda that's meant to groom kids on Twitter. Like he literally spreads hate speech on Twitter every day. Whether or not you agree with it, all right? He knows what he's saying that's getting him in trouble with Twitter. Him pretending like he doesn't know why he got in trouble right now is 100% performative.
What rules, you sons of bitches? Exactly.
He's so mad.
Precisely.
He's mad.
Because such things matter when the accusations start flying. So what did I say that might constitute harassment? Well, many things, hypothetically. Let's begin with, remember when pride was a sin? Although that is merely a factual statement, because under the old rule,
I feel some need to respond to the remember when pride was a sin thing? Yes. Cope harder. Cope harder. Pride Month. It happened. It's going to happen again. It happens every year. It's the month where the gay people get all uppity and you get all angry. I know that's what you consider it. It's that literally conservatives consider Pride Month, quote unquote, the month where the queers get all uppity. I guarantee it. That's what they think. And they're going to keep having to cope, seethe, and mold about it because it's going to keep on happening. Corporations like Disney, all of the big like food and media corporations, everything from food to media to technology to entertainment. Every one of these every one of these organizations and corporations is going to fall in line to the general tendency to show some tacit support for the left and for LGBT people and BLM and whatnot. We've seen it happening for a long time now, and it's only going to happen more as these corporations realize that bigotry doesn't sell. It may sell on a small scale. Little YouTubers and streamers and Nazi content creators may be able to sell their content and make a good living on a small scale. But if we're talking about a large corporation that's going to actually reach anything close to anything on the charts, being an openly Nazi organization isn't really going to get you very far. Honestly, being a openly far-right or bigoted organization isn't going to get you very far. It doesn't even have to be Nazi.
Rules applicable even a decade ago, pride was a sin and had been recognized as perhaps the cardinal sin for thousands of years previously. It still might be regarded as unacceptable to the woke authoritarian moralists who
The woke authoritarian moralists
now insist, for example, that we celebrate Pride Month, not hour or day or week, but month, and who have literally called it Pride Month instead of LGBT plus month or whatever else alphabet.
Well, it's about being proud of who you are because typically Christians have okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't pride refer to, like, isn't it like a double part, like, meaning? Half of it is just being proud of who you are, which is, you know, just an essential thing that you should be, and, you know, plays pretty well into, like, a group of people that are generally disenfranchised by society, but also, like, conservative Christians have kept gay people in America down for a very long time, and them considering pride to be, like, a cardinal sin, as Jordan Peterson just said, is also kind of like a slap in the face to the Christian fundamentalists who hate and seethe about the existence of gay people. That's how I see it.
Acronym which is currently insisted upon as the only acceptable enlightened terminology. I don't regard pride as a virtue. It has been classically regarded as a sin. I don't see that sexual orientation or sexual desire of any sort is something to celebrate or to take pride in. And so what I said was merely a
Well, on its own, it wouldn't necessarily be. Had we grown up and lived our whole lives in a society that in no way judged or differentiated or discriminated against people based on their race, their identity, their sexuality, their gender, whatever, then these issues wouldn't exist. Had we lived in an entirely egalitarian society for at least the modern future, if the idea of like racism, sexism, and homophobia and whatnot were all ideas that were like left in the Stone Age along with like human sacrifices, then maybe then we wouldn't have this whole like social justice, civil rights movement and online and like kind of left-wing community online. That probably wouldn't necessarily be the case. But in reality, even if you argue that like we've made massive strides in progress for civil rights in the last few, couple decades even, that's still only been a couple decades. There are people out there whose grandparents, there are people out there whose parents, there are people out there who lived through segregation. There are a lot of people out there whose parents lived through segregation, and there are a whole lot of people out there who know somebody who lived through segregation here in America. It wasn't that long ago. It just wasn't that long ago. These things had real tangible impacts. And segregation is just one example. But these things had real tangible impacts on these demographics that last a lot longer than the paper the laws were written on do. Okay? Just because the laws are different now or have been changed or amended doesn't mean the effect of these laws isn't still around. My granddad was born in Jim Crow. Exactly. Do you think that, like, well, if it's your granddad, then 2 generations is enough to even fully recover from that? I don't think so. I think it's possible, but in general, if your grandfather was born into Jim Crow, then there's a good chance that your parents weren't exactly born into the most perfect socioeconomic position. And that doesn't exactly bode well for you as well. It's a cyclical problem. And it's one that we talk about a lot here, but it's also one that conservatives are diametrically opposed to acknowledging the existence of.
A fact. Now, it's possible that I hurt someone's feelings because I pointed out that pride goes before, for example, a fall, but I don't care about that. Would do it again.
I'm pretty sure the pride comes before the fall comments that he made is like some tongue-in-cheek reference to if we allow gay people to keep existing and being open in our society, then our civilization will fall. It's a very common talking point by the right, the idea that much like the Roman Empire, America is doomed to fall if we allow democracy and progressivism to take over. It's really, really bizarre, but that is truly what I've seen a lot of conservatives believing, especially online.
Again, and also consider it my duty to warn those who are about to fall into a pit that the path they are on leads suddenly downhill.
Let's scroll downhill to the next part of the thread.
By participating in the whole identity charade, Ellen/Elliot has undoubtedly, with his, her, their so-called courage and...
Dude, I love how much more breath conservatives have to waste to be transphobic. Have you guys ever noticed that? Like, conservatives or transphobes will do a sort of, it's never genuine. It's always performative, where when they talk about a trans person, they'll purposefully, like, cycle through every pronoun under the sun, as if to sort of performatively express their exasperation with having to follow all these pronouns and keep track of a trans person's pronouns. That's more or less what it's meant to do. Sort of a performative show of exasperation or confusion that's not really real or there, and frankly isn't an actual argument, but is meant to lean his audience more towards like, yeah, these trans people don't even know what they are, even though Elliot Page literally came out as a trans man and has been a trans man since he came out. There's been no confusion about his pronouns being he, him. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Feels very performative to me.
Remember, the White House itself has tweeted out every indication of believing in the courage of those who transition. Enticed many a poor, confused adolescent, girl most likely, to blame her emergent pubescent self-consciousness, confusion, and discomfort on being born in the wrong body.
Elliot Page is like 30, dude. Isn't he? This isn't like some 19-year-old we're talking about. 35 years old. We're talking about a full-grown man here. I liked how when I searched Elliot Page, the first thing that came up was Jordan Peterson. Jesus Christ. He's a 35-year-old man. This isn't some hormonal... This doesn't even play well into the narrative they're trying to spin about hormonal teenage girls on TikTok being radicalized into foregoing their womanhood and becoming men in order to escape the attention, the negative attention they get from men. That is legitimately what I've found a lot of people, not even just conservatives, like pushing the idea, but a lot of like normies that I've talked to about trans people now believe about trans men, is that trans men were young girls who want to escape sexual harassment and the risk of rape, so they quote unquote ruined their bodies and turned themselves into men in order to escape it. Elliot Page's pronouns are he, they. Oh, my bad. I've legitimately heard this, not just from conservative demagogues like Jordan Peterson, that is what he believes, but also from, like, just random people I've talked to try to bread pill on trans issues. And it's like, and the problem is that it kind of sounds like it makes sense, right? Like, I guess women do deal with a lot of sexual harassment and a lot of bullshit like that. Maybe they would try to masculinize themselves to try to avoid that kind of stuff. But then when you really think about it and think about how much someone's appearance and how much someone liking their own appearance is kind of integral to them being happy with themselves, you start to realize that like no one's going through that level of physical change just to try to avoid unwanted sexual contact with men. Like when you really think about it, the longer you think about it, the more insane that is. It sounds kind of like plausible at first, but when you really put more thought into it, it just sounds downright insane. My mom has told me almost the same thing about me being trans, that she supports trans people. Yeah, big steppy. I've heard it from people that are like, yeah, I'm cool with trans people and all, but I think trans men are yada yada. It's like, yeah, it's really fucked, big steppy. It's the your dad tier of transphobia, though, right? Like, you can't quite get somebody from like not at all being on board with trans people to being on board with it to being fully like 100% red pilled on it and based as fuck. Like it's sort of a process, unfortunately.
And believing that the courageous, self-affirming, and morally admirable route is hormonal treatment, sterilization, subjugation to a lifetime of expensive medical...
By the way, I like how they talk about sterilization in this context, like it's so horrible. And yet it's literally an elective, like, it's literally an elective procedure. It's an elective procedure. Like, if you want to get upset about forced, quote-unquote, sterilization, why not talk about, like, I don't know, surgeries for ectopic pregnancies and stuff, and surgeries that lead to women having to have their uteruses removed, thus making them literally sterile. What about men who get vasectomies? They're making themselves sterile in many cases. Some can be undone, some can't. It doesn't hold up to scrutiny. This weird, disgusting language meant to evoke a feeling of hatred and disgust in these surgeries and in these procedures is literally only used by and against, not by conservatives against trans people for their surgeries. Because if they can sort of make it sound like these very complex medical procedures that are done by trained professionals, as any surgery is, are actually like some butchery job, then they don't really need to make an actual argument. After all, conservatives care about feelings way more than they care about facts.
Complication, how delightfully profitable is that? And misery. And I believe firmly that Ellen/Elliot, or whatever the hell her name or his name is, bears...
See, this is absolutely like performative confusion. Whatever the hell his or her name is. Like, come on. He knows it's Elliot Page. He knows what the pronouns are. It's all performative. It's pretending to be confused by pronouns. The pronouns and being able to like just respect a trans person's name and pronouns is so simple. They have to pretend like it's confusing.
Moral culpability for that. And finally, with regard to the final phrase, criminal physician. I must say that I've had some post-coital, so to speak, regrets about
Let's
that
go again.
phrase. It is clearly
Post-coital.
the case that the surgical operation performed by the butchers who butchered Elliot/Ellen was legal.
Butchers. Keyword, butchers and butchered. He considers top surgery to be butchery. Bottom surgery as well, I'm sure. Remember back in 2016 when Jordan Peterson was a quivering pussy who still had to kind of dog whistle his beliefs, and he would say, I'm fine with trans people, I just don't want to be forced to change my language, and everyone was like, based, free speech, based. And now he's going on about how these things need to be stopped. Trans people need to be stopped. Their way of life needs to be stopped. They can't be allowed to live their lives and be who they are. Certainly not loudly. It's really wild. Like, if you go back and you look at the rhetoric of Jordan Peterson back then and compare it to today, he's gotten far, far, far more aggressively anti-trans, anti-LGBT, basically anything progressive. He's gone far more mask off because you're basically allowed to now. You just can, because I guess they've sort of realized exactly where the line is with these platforms. They can stay right on the line without breaking TOS and still pretend like these platforms are silencing them and banning them and yada yada. In the case of this guy, he literally targeted a specific person who is a public figure. But like in most cases, they've gotten a lot better at keeping, not keeping the mask on, but like taking it off and then just barely not crossing the line. It's pretty crazy. Wow. Absolutely wow. The smartest transphobe. Absolutely the smartest transphobe. If you enjoyed this segment, then please consider dropping a like. It helps the channel out a lot. It's completely free and only takes half a second. It's not a hollow gesture of support for my content either. When YouTube sees you liked my videos, it makes YouTube push my content in the algorithm, including my channel. So definitely consider doing that. It helps out a lot, especially if you like the stream while I'm live. That helps a whole lot. So please do that. And of course, if you want to see more from me online, you can follow my social medias, linked down in the description below. Subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. And finally, if you want to support me financially and, help me save up money for the Seattle Moving Fund, then you can donate, subscribe, or gift a sub over on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or you can support me on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or hell, even Patreon. Links, of course, are all down below. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.